From MZ Studios in Dallas, Texas, you're listening to the Tennis Revolution podcast.
Welcome to the revolution. The tennis revolution is here. I think that's the first time in 487 episodes I've said that or remembered to say that.
I was about to say, it was very professional.
Yeah, I forgot everything else I was going to talk about, but I had that. I've always got that.
That usually when we start with that means there's nothing that exciting to talk about, but I don't think that's the case this time.
Well, I think we have an example that we talk about sometimes that you hate, but I actually liked it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age, but we had 500 tournaments in a row all together.
You mean 500 in quantity, not the amount of ranking.
Well, we had one 500.
I thought you meant 500 different tournaments. That's what it feels like.
Kind of. Yeah, we had a bunch. There were a bunch. And you know, you see I guess depending on the time, which one is on live, and it could have been any of them on Tennis Channel.
That's the only thing I like about it is that you're getting live tennis pretty much all day.
Right.
Even right now as we record this.
Yep, that's true. Delray Beach.
So it's pretty, that's what I like is you turn it on and you always feel like you're getting, like I was about to go out last night and there was that Auger Alizim was playing his semifinal match and I was like, I don't want to leave. I want to see the end of this.
And what choice did you make the responsible choice to stay in and do your job, or did you go party?
Luckily, it ended, so I didn't have to choose. Otherwise, I probably would have had to leave because we had a.
You would have said au revoir to the French Canadian.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot he was Canadian. I was thinking he was French, and the French people were going to have a future star, and then I realized it was Canadian. So I'm sure they'll claim him if he gets better.
Well, I mean, look, Canada's killing it, dude, especially on the men's side.
Isn't that what makes you sad about American tennis when you've got such a small country that like has so many more potential stars than we do?
And it's so cold up there. No, everybody plays hockey,
right? And
yet, it seems like they have more of an upside than we do.
Yeah. Anytime I tell a friend about an upcoming Canadian, he's Canadian. They're like that Braden Schnurr. I told him he's like, oh, that's just a waste of hockey talent. So even the Canadian
and curling
people are not that excited about these tennis players. But it is sad to me that there's going to be more Canadian men in the top 100 than Americans probably soon.
Soon,
yeah, maybe already. But it's pretty terrible.
Well, we got the women for a while.
Yes.
So we have the biggest men's tournament going on right now is the ATP 500 in Rio. And that's the one you're talking about with Aliassime, FAA. Isn't that what BG Tennis Nation calls him?
I was thinking about that, and I thought if he hadn't, he's missing out. I'm sure he has.
Well, the problem is I'm going to call him FAA because it's a trillion times easier. Right. So if Brad does too, I'm not paying homage to Brad Gilbert's awful nickname situation. I'm just trying to make my life easier. So FAA is what we're going with. So he was in the finals.
When it was funny because you would assume that being the 500, that would have been a star-studded field, and unless they all lost early, it seemed weak or weaker than Delray Beach.
Well, one thing I thought of when I saw the draw is, this might be a real-life example of what happens if we only seeded 4.
Right.
Because Dominic Thiem lost 3-3 in the first round. He was the one.
And he's, by the way, the second best clay court player in the world, supposedly.
Apparently. And he lost to the eventual champion.
So that guy just had a crazy
Serbian
week.
Dejeri or what, I don't know Serbian.
So that guy just had a crazy week, I guess.
So Thiem out, the 1 seed down. The 5 seed won, Sousa from Portugal. Then the 3 seed lost.
And who was that?
That was Cecchinato.
Yeah, I mean, so these are the top seeds.
Yeah, the 6 seed lost. The 7 seed lost. The 4 seed, which Schwartzman lost. The 6 seed lost. And the 2 seed lost. So literally every seed except the 5 made it through to the second round. So maybe I'm rethinking your stupid idea of having 4 seeds only.
Yeah, they lost without playing other seeds.
Actually, you know what? You're exactly right. Actually, if we would have had only 4 seeds, the rest of the seeds might have been spread around and made it through. So actually, now that I rethink, maybe I always should remember that the default position is we're right.
Of course. But yeah, so is that improper seeding or is that just the seeded players being weak?
Both.
I mean, Schwartzman and Cecchinato and team are usually pretty good clay court players.
Yeah, and, Fanini.
It sounds like there may have been some weird quirk to the surface. I only say that because, when you have an unusual outcome, that sometimes is the reason.
I mean, it was red clay, so yeah. I don't know.
When Nadal's coming back next week, I saw, and he's supposed to play Kyrgios real early, and they were making a big deal about that. But it's just crazy to me how many of these 500 tournaments the big players didn't play. Like, even now Zverev is skipping them, and
yeah,
it's kind of it does make it hard to figure out which tournaments to watch.
Well, I actually have not reverse course. That's not the right. I actually looked at these tournaments differently. And I looked at them as in all these new, looking at our quote unquote next gen. And now hopefully because that's the marker I'm looking for is the next gen. Anybody, Tsitsipas and younger. And again, I don't mean age.
Right.
I mean tennis age. So the group that is team, the group behind them.
Yeah.
And anybody younger, the FAA would count, is younger than them because he's way younger.
Right.
So anybody in that next gen beating the next gen, I look at that and I'm like, all right. And it gets me fired up. Actually, it renews my, I don't know what, not faith isn't the right word, but we are pretty down on this generation. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yeah, and I feel like this is the first year, and I say year meaning like the last 4 to 4 months where we're seeing progress by the next gen.
Yeah,
the next gen, but the next gen now.
And certainly it's hard to tell when not everybody is playing in every draw.
Yeah, but even before when everybody didn't play, then it was the second tier players that were winning, Cilic and those guys. I mean, now to have new people coming up and beating the second tier players to me is impressive and means something.
Yeah, so you've got the next tournament is a hard court, of course, because we're getting ready for clay. Why not throw a hard court in for the love of Pete? In Marseille.
I thought that already happened. I thought that was the one that Tsitsipas won.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, wasn't that in Marseille?
Yeah, it finished today.
Oh, I thought you were saying starting next week.
No. I'm going down the list of the 5,000 tournaments in a row.
Going on right now.
Yeah, so that was a hard court in Marseille, in Tsitsipas, who's next gen.
Yeah, and he was the 1 seed.
And he beat Kukushkin, who knows? Is he next gen? I'm not sure.
He's past gen.
Well, Coric is next gen.
Right.
He lost his first match, which was the second round, to a wild card. Ugo Humbert, the doubles standout.
Yeah, he made it all the way to the semis.
Yep.
I think.
And yeah, he did. And let's see who else. Shapovalov lost to Kukushkin, but that's all right. Verdasco was the seed. He won a round, then lost. Gilles Simon and David Goffin, they battled out in the quarters, and then Goffin is who Tsitsipas beat. So that's a next gen beating a next gen.
Yeah, he's one of my biggest disappointments because he was one of the ones I thought could really make it to a slam, semi or final, and he's just kind of stagnated for the last couple of years.
Well, he's had some weird issues.
Yeah, as he said, those took a couple random injuries.
Really, I think somebody punched him in the face, and he didn't want to admit it.
Well, and he had that same Jack Sock syndrome where he got to the top 10 because a lot of the other guys were out. So maybe he never really was a top 10 caliber.
Right.
But his ranking got there.
So, well, yeah, but so Tsitsipas winning is a feather in our cap, so to speak, in regards to that idea of the next gen overtaking the next gen.
Well, and I saw some comments. He said that he's been kind of disappointed he hasn't been able to play up to the level that he did in Australia. And he said this is the first week he felt like he got back to that level. And he said he knows that's kind of what you got to do, is be able to do it every week. You can't just do it occasionally.
What a fine young man. What a fine young man.
He's my favorite. The future greatest of all time. 21 slams.
I hope not. So then we had another tournament this week. We had Delray Beach right here, literally just finished.
So it's
hot.
Perfect warm-up for Miami, right?
Hot off the presses right here. And we had Delpo.
No.
Bad news, bro. Bad news. I think he got busted up again.
I didn't see him when he looked bad, but they were saying he looked like he didn't need to be out there.
Yeah.
And then he won a round or two.
Yeah, he beat Nishioka in the first round, and then beat Riley Opelka, taking out an American in the second round, 4-4, and then had a battle against the American Mackie McDonald.
And that's the exact kind of match he doesn't want to play, probably, the 7-6 in the third.
Right. Well, then McDonald goes out, wins the first set 6-3 in his semifinal, and then gets double bageled. And I don't know, I haven't seen anything.
That's kind of like what he did here in the Dallas Challenger.
Right.
It wasn't that bad, but it's making me wonder what's going on there.
Uh-oh.
That can't be nerves.
Why not?
I mean, you would think it'd be fatigue or
I don't know.
Injury.
Who knows? So on the other side, Isner makes it to the semis and loses to that dirty Brit, Dan Evans, who was a qualifier, by the way. So how about that? You want to talk about fatigue?
Yeah.
He goes from qualifying all the way through to the finals. And talk about fatigue, loses in a third set breaker. 9-7.
To who?
To Radu Arbol.
Yeah, that's not the final that
you said that like you know who that is.
I do. I've actually seen him play. He's got no serve whatsoever. But I watched him almost beat Isner one time because you don't need a serve to beat Isner.
That's true. You really don't.
He almost beat him, and I was like, how is this guy on the tour with that serve? And then lately I've been seeing his name in a couple tournaments, it seems like. This is not the first tournament this year I've seen his name. I think he's up in the top 80 or 70 now.
So that's so again, you know, if we start seeing these tournaments sort of being a nice little petri dish for the next gen to take on some next gen, get some experience, then it'll matter because then they're going to use that confidence, hopefully, to springboard them into more success in the Grand Slams, in the 500s and thousands, and hopefully more success against the next gen. Well,
and I agree with what you said. We talked about this before.
Of course you do.
Imagine if Nadal played Rio and Djokovic played Delray Beach. Those tournaments would have sucked. and
maybe.
Some would say they suck now, but...
Well, maybe they would have. It just depends, but...
But, I mean, if Nadal rolled through everybody, including the final...
But would he? So that's what I'm getting at. So now we're starting to see these next gens inch forward.
Right.
And they're going to have to play some of the big boys at some point.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a proclamation.
Bold prediction.
That Nadal is not winning the French.
Of course he's not winning the French. We had this discussion. It's a Joker slam.
Yeah, but I bet he's still the odds-on favorite to win.
Yeah, because Vegas knows everybody is suckers. Vegas doesn't know who's going to win. They know who you think is going to win.
Okay, let me make it bolder then. He will lose before playing Djokovic.
Oh, whoa.
I'm saying...
Is that because Federer's in the mix?
He won't lose to Federer. Federer will also lose before
Djokovic.
The final.
I
don't know, though. Now that team has gotten crushed, who knows? I don't know who's left to beat Nadal, but I just think, like you're saying, there's a lot of players building confidence right now, and Nadal can't have much.
So, yes, it is fair to say that I have been, and I've dragged you down with me pretty
years.
Well, I don't know. I don't know when I got so just overwhelmingly overwhelmingly negative about it. It's been a slow build, but it's all in now about the next gen.
Well, I think the first thing that got you riled up was everybody discounting Sampras for Federer.
Yes.
And so then it just built from there.
Yes. And at one point in time, listen, I am a tennis genius. There's no question about that. But at one point in time, and I don't remember where it was, when it was, what interview it was on, what shit, whatever, but Pete Sampras was either asked or it came up, indirectly as an answer, but he basically said that Federer doesn't have the same competition, that he's not playing in an era that's as deep as when Sampras played. And that's Sampras saying that. Now, you're in the Hall of Fame, you've been retired, and you're really out of the tennis limelight pretty much altogether.
Yeah.
And he's not a limelight guy. It's not like it's Agassi, for Pete's sake, right?
He's not out there campaigning.
Right, so he said that and probably felt a little backlash from that whole notion and then didn't really say anything after that again. But that's not where it stems from in my mind. It stems from reality in my mind.
Well, and let's just go on the record, too. You've never said that Federer is not the greatest of all time.
Correct.
But you
or Djokovic.
Just said that.
But I have said that about Nadal.
To say the number of slams is the reason somebody's the greatest of all time is ridiculously easy to choose that as your reasoning.
Yeah. It's a little shallow. Not in the sense that slams don't matter, but shallow in the sense that there is so much more. And furthermore, if all a player does is make it about the slams, then maybe their record is shallow.
Well, and so believe it or not, somebody started this debate on Facebook this week in one of these tennis groups that I'm in. And guess who the first name? So he wrote a whole long post about, is it Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic? That's the only three possibilities he listed.
Right.
And guess who the first person that somebody brought up?
Serena Williams.
No.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
What?
Margaret Court.
Oh. I'm not sure, but I do believe that is called trolling.
And somebody said, Margaret Court won about 10 Australians with nobody else in the draw. That's why she has 24. So they said they got to factor in a little bit with who people have to play.
Well, I wish Serena just would win, too. We can put that to bed.
I do, too.
And then it's over.
But that's the same reason we want Djokovic to win more than Federer, because then we know for a fact that slams will no longer be the number one criteria when people don't want to be the greatest has more slams.
Right.
Then it'll be, Federer was number one more weeks, or he's won more titles, or they'll come up with something.
So the next gen. So again, let me re-clarify. So Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, I mean, even maybe Murray, Wawrinka, Cilic, Delpo. Am I missing anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's sort of the big four, even though there's more than four of them.
Right.
Because you have the true big three, and then all of those combined equal a fourth.
Yeah, so you wouldn't put Berdych or Ferrer in there.
No.
Yeah.
So that's big four, but they're part of that era.
Right.
So now the younger group coming behind that group, supposedly being marketed and all the rest of it, is the next gen.
Right.
Coric, Dominic Thiem, David Goffin.
It was Sock, but you can't take him out now just because he sucks.
Well, I'm going to let whoever came up with this next-gen crap off the hook.
Nishikori could be in that group. Is he too old?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I think
close.
he's in a Berdych range.
Yeah.
A little younger, but whatever. So, yeah, I'm taking Sock out. I'm letting everybody who thought Sock might be next-gen off the hook.
Well, and you have Zverev in that group, right? Because he started a lot earlier.
Yeah, no, he's part of the next gen.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's with Thiem and those guys, even though Thiem's a few years older.
Right.
But you're saying it's not about the age, it's about when you got on tour and when you got to this level.
Right. So then we have a group like Tsitsipas, FAA. Who else is part of the next gen? Shapovalov.
Tiafoe.
Khachanov.
Yeah.
Tiafoe. I will put Jack Sock in there. he's in the never gen.
The lost gen.
Oh my goodness! You mean the gen that lost?
Right. But yeah, that's pretty much.
So
all the guys I can think of.
All right, so we have the Big Four, which means the Big Three plus anyone of that age group that sort of had a Grand Slam during this period. The Next Gen, led by their fearless leader or fearful leader, Zverev, and then the Next Gen, Tsitsipas and the boys.
Right.
So I am excited. I am riveted by watching, even in these little tournaments, watching the Next Gen come along because they're improving in results, they're improving in ability, confidence, and as they mature and start making better decisions on the court, now once they get into Grand Slams, or if the Big Three, Big Four, decide maybe to grace our presence at a 500 every now and again, which is really pathetic that they don't. I don't even want to talk about it, but separate issue. But now we're going to start seeing those guys push, and the results of Next Gen beating Big Four guys isn't the measure.
Right.
Now it could be, but we start seeing the Big Four getting long in the tooth, and it sort of changes the argument, unfortunately.
Well, and what should happen, what we've always said, is that if all these generations are relatively equal, then once these Big Four players start fading, as they already are, the Next Gen should be the ones that are winning everything right now.
That's exactly it.
And then for 3 or 4 years, they should win everything, and then the Next Gen should start winning. But that's not been what's happening, even at the lower levels. There's been more guys in that lower range doing well. Not doing better than the others.
Right. So part of it is if Next Gen starts competing against the Big Four, but again, it's a little bit swayed because theoretically the Next Gen, so the Zverevs, were competing against the Big Four when the Big Four were better.
Right.
Although they're still 1, 2, 3. So exactly. Don't get me started. Although Federer's not, but whatever.
But I think your argument is if you let's pick the 10 best Next Gen right now against the 10 best Next Gen. Next 5 years, the Next Gen are going to win more slams.
I think so.
Or be higher ranked, or both.
Well, when the Big Four retire, and that means the Big Three plus, Andy's pretty much retired,
right.
But the rest of them, Delpo is too pitiful.
I say even if Nadal and Federer retire and Djokovic is still there, that should still count.
Yeah.
Because Djokovic could play 5-6 more years.
But it doesn't matter. We have an out even if they're gone, because again, the Tsitsipas group is going to leap over the Zverev group.
Yeah.
And then I will have my answer. Now, nobody else is going to want to hear it, and I don't care. I'm satisfied just being right. So that's why we've got 27 men's tournaments in 1 week all over the globe.
Right.
And I'm excited about seeing them because now because you're right. The Big Four, the big boys don't play.
Right.
And normally it's like big deal. Zverev's going to win a match or a tournament. Team will win a tournament. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean anything. It means something again. The 250s and these 500s that nobody plays, they mean something now, and they mean something for the next gen.
Nobody cares. Nobody's watching.
Until
Did you hear that? Did you
what?
hear that line?
No.
Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. That was the Rod Woodson did that on the air this week for that AAF football league.
Oh, God.
He thought he was off air, and he said, "Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching." And he was actually being on. He was actually being shown at the time.
So what does AAF stand for? Something
Alliance of American Football.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. They have not come up with a better.
I know. Why not AFA, American Football Association, Alliance, either one. But yeah, they caught him on the broadcast saying, "No, nobody cares."
But the good thing is that's going to bring them more ink than anything else.
Yeah, it was the only story about the AF all week.
I stumbled across it totally on accident and watched it for about 4 minutes and said, ugh.
I had plans to watch it, and then the second week, it wasn't even on the same time. I'm like, I thought the whole point was going to be it's on the same time and channel every week. I thought, okay, great, I'll watch one game a week, and that'll keep me interested. And the next week, it wasn't on. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to search for it.
We got to see Mike Singletary. I saw him on the sideline coaching somebody, the Wheeling Wizards. I don't know what. I'm just making up names. The names are awful.
I think Wizards is one of them.
So anyway, I don't know how you derailed me on that. You just wanted to talk recorded football. That's your life.
I just wanted to do that line. But I don't feel like that's the case with these tournaments because like you said, who doesn't want to see someone that's going to be big and up and coming Well, the next gen has destroyed that for us because we've been hearing for 10 years people are big and coming and they don't ever come.
Right. So I think, listen, our negativity, or mine more in particular, might be off-putting. I get it. It's off-putting for me that I have to talk about the same story on a podcast every week because these jokers can't win. But in the sense that it's grounded in reality, I have to continue to talk about it. But now we're starting to see this NextNext Gen hopefully start to separate itself this season.
Yeah.
Now, again, are they going to get past the Big Four? I don't know if that's ever going to happen because of the age differential.
Yeah.
And at some point, these guys can't be 1 through 3. How old are you people?
Well, the question is anybody going to pass them, or are they just going to quit before they let that happen?
That's got to happen. Either they don't play events because they can't.
Right.
And they only save themselves up for one event a year, so every year they're going to trot out Federer until he's 78 to win Wimbledon. And then the same thing with Nadal. Now, if Federer wins a Grand Slam at 50, okay, can somebody please just come on?
That's because he's the greatest.
Honestly, come on. On one leg, please.
Yeah, and I did get some flack in that post because I said that somebody said, how could you not like Federer? And I said, I didn't say I don't like Federer, but I did lose a lot of respect for him when he stopped playing clay. And then somebody said, well, a lot of older players manage their schedule. I said, okay, then why is he playing it this year? He's realizing now that these guys are catching him and he's got to play them. But, I mean, every player picked and choose the surface they want to play. I mean, Sampras could have played 5 more years at Wimbledon, I'm sure. He could have moved to England and practiced on grass 50 weeks a year and then played Wimbledon every year for 5 years.
Well, here's another indicator. Stan the man, is back.
Yeah.
If he ascends directly to the Big Four, again, I rest my case.
I don't know if he played this week, but he had a good week last week.
Exactly. And so, fair enough, he sits out a week. He's coming back from injury. So,
well, look at Delpo comes back and can barely walk, and he makes the quarters. And he was one tiebreak away from being in the semis.
Right. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Mackie McDonald is not the future, so he's not part of any generation.
Yeah.
The sock generation.
Somebody told me I was excited to watch the future American. I said, "Who's that?" I said, "The only person that's in that category right now at all is Tiafoe."
Right,
and I have a lot of doubts about that myself.
Yeah,
he lost first round to somebody, but yeah, I just don't. I don't even see a next gen or next gen for Americans right now in the men's. No,
which I can live with if there's some depth in men's tennis.
Yeah,
I can. I've got no problem being an FAA fan. Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Right.
Yeah, baby.
Nice. That was good.
Nailed it. I don't mind being a fan of his. Because he's got such a good game so far. It's developing, but it's a pretty good all-court game. And Tsitsipas has a great all-around game. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Those guys are really fun to watch.
Big banger, big old wind-up and just cracks his forehands. And he's, and they look like different players. I mean, Tsitsipas is a big lumbering, he's kind of gangly looking, sort of.
Well, and are we jumping the gun on those guys that are they having success just because the scouting report's not out on all of them yet? And then once they get in the grind of the tour and people start to figure out, will they drop down to earth like all the other next gens? I don't know.
Well, where does it come from? Neck up. We'll find out.
Yeah,
we'll find out. I mean, everybody can hit a forehand in this, on the tour. Everybody can hit a backhand. Not everybody can hit volleys, but that's a separate issue.
Not anybody can.
Right.
Well, Tsitsipas they already said he was the youngest Grand Slam semifinalist since like 2007. Which
trouble.
was Nadal.
Oh,
so I mean that's got to tell you something compared to the previous generation that he was able, and he beat one of the big four to get there too. That was the other thing. It wasn't just that he got there by lucky draw, and he earned it.
We're just getting proven right, tournament by tournament, week by week. It's coming true, and damn it, somebody better realize it. So that's the men, and I've got renewed excitement until I'm, hopefully not let down. But I think that was what I took away from all these tournaments is hey, the future might be right now for these guys, and they're going to leapfrog our vaunted next gen, and maybe the ATP won't be so quick to crown them.
Yeah, and, it's easy to get excited about a, Auger Aliassime final with, even though his opponent was relatively unknown, because at least you see him as an up-and-comer. Right. It's hard to get excited about an Evans-Albot final.
True.
Because I don't think either of them are going to be making waves anytime soon. So that's the only downside, that when the tournament ends with that, it's kind of goes out with a whimper. I'd be fine with seeing like Evans-Isner as a final would have been fine, because that would have been, a top player versus a comeback player or whatever. But to have two pretty unknown players, that does lose a little bit of luster for the tournament.
Well, of course, unknown to us. Who knows how people around the world feel about it? But hey, that's what we're concerned about is American tennis. We don't care about your other dumb countries.
Well, and Evans is probably the number 2 British player now.
Sadly,
behind Edmund.
I mean, Norrie's in the mix.
That's true. They're probably close in ranking.
So, well, that's the men. And like I said, I hate to be optimistic on this podcast. I apologize profusely to anybody out there.
Breaking character this week.
But, looking at that next gen, that's our hope. And again, no Americans in it, really. I mean, I don't see any high hopes for any Americans.
I really don't.
Not yet. There's a 14-year-old out there somewhere, I'm sure, that's going to be the next American hopeful. And listen, again, if we had 8 guys in the top 40 and Tiafoe was like always in the 20s, that would add some great depth, and that'd be like, wow. Right. That's, his jacked up forehand leaves a lot to be desired, and, whatever.
But if he's in their 20s, he's making, a Grand Slam quarter once a year, maybe, and so where do you see, if you had to go in the future for the next 5 years, what do you see Opelka's highest ranking being?
Ooh, oh, man.
He just won a tournament. He did decently here.
He's so big and dumb.
What is
not dumb. I don't mean dumb like he's not smart, but just like big, like big lumbering.
Well, in other words, why can't he get to a top 10 like Isner?
Isner, right.
And he beat Isner, but that's not saying much.
7-6, 6-7, 7-6, 6-7, 7-7. I think it was best of 22, 21 sets.
Isner's actually has got to have a higher percentage of breaking serve than he does. He doesn't break as often as Isner. Isner doesn't break hardly at all, but so that'd be my concern.
Here's the thing. I mean, he's always got a puncher's chance because of that. He's ginormous, and the angle of that serve coming in is so ridiculous. I mean, he's an inch taller, right?
Yeah.
He's 6'11".
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And, Karlovic never got inside the top 20, I don't think, even though he had as good a serve as Isner.
In doubles he did, right.
But so it makes me wonder, like, what. Now, I think he had a little bit of nerves issues, had sometimes closing out matches, but it makes me wonder, like, what the ceiling is for Opelka. Certainly don't see him as a top 5 player or top 10.
I know, and I'll be honest with you, maybe it's what do you call it? Height bias?
Yeah.
I don't know, but for exactly that reason is, yes, he's got that serve, but please get one ball back to him if you want to beat him.
Right.
That's, you know what I mean? It's like, look, so.
When you have a game that's predicated on fast services too, you're pretty much out for the clay season to have any shot. And so then you've got to do what Isner does, which is play only like the American heart. They showed Isner's record in America.
I saw that.
See that.
I saw that.
And it was it was like he was like 500 away from America. And then
I think he was like 33 and 31.
Yeah, and then in America he was like maybe 75, 80%.
Right.
Which again, what the real reason behind that stat was hard court versus probably not.
Hard court and smaller tournaments because we don't have a lot of big tournaments. So Evo, his highest ranking is 44 in 06. So you were
really that was it. Oh, I thought he was better than that.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, and see, he's got.
No, I'm sorry. Career high number 14.
I was going to say
that
14 for some reason.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so he was top 20. As I remember him being seated in some slams for a while.
Yeah.
But again, he had like a very identifiable game. He would serve and try to get in. Opelka, to me, just right now has serve, and it's like I'm not sure what the strategy is beyond that.
Yeah, the same thing with Isner. I mean, he should be getting to the net at all costs.
Right.
At all costs. But I mean, listen, he's a top. He made it to the top 10. So
and stayed there.
Who are we
amount of time?
Who are we to argue? Obviously,
yeah.
So he had a little bit more than just the serve, but I think the same limitations for Opelka apply that they do to those big guys. Is they just can't move and they can't last.
Yeah, and I guess the only other next gen that we kind of forgot about probably, or next gen, is Taylor Fritz, but he's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
He would be classified age-wise in the next gen.
And anyone below that age next gen counts. So it's really anyone, because the key is the next gen. That's the dead generation, the lost generation. So, all right, who cares about men's tennis? Well, I do again, finally, honestly.
See, we say that on air. We don't wait till we think we're off air. We just say nobody's listening, nobody cares.
Yeah, right. Rod, by the way, all-time great Steeler, but won his only Super Bowl with the Ravens, unfortunately.
Yeah. And now you see what he's doing with his life.
Yeah, it's pitiful, isn't it? So he should have never left the Steelers.
That's right.
All right, well, let's talk about tennis that really matters. Tennis is really exciting, and that's women's tennis. We'll do that when we come back.
It's time to join the revolution. Go to our website, tennisrevolutionpodcast.com, to get the latest episodes, email us your questions and comments, or give us show ideas.
All right. We don't lie. We're not making this up. We're not pandering. This is for real. We like the women's game, current state of the women's game, better than the current state of the men's game.
And we start with the men's just because we like to end on a positive
note. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And talk about this garbage. But like I said, I think renewed enthusiasm. I'm excited, honestly. I'm really excited about this season because of that.
Well, it's crazy. That's one thing I have not been able to figure out, why the women's tour is able to consistently get the top players to play every tournament and the men's tour can't. Because, I mean, again, Kvitova played again. She's played every week this year. Like, how is she still standing?
Now, maybe she's just got some renewed life and,
she's just happy to be out there.
Almost had it taken away, so I'm playing anywhere, anytime.
I mean, she's going to be number one just because of how much. She's going to be like Davydenko when he was top 3, just plays every week.
Nikolai Davydenko.
I think he's still playing now. No, but yeah, I don't know how she's still doing it. Now, she does play short points, but still.
Boy, did she play some short points in the it's funny because, and I've had this, not theory, I guess, but we had that generation, that period of time, people thought, oh wow, men's tennis is just bang bang, because the power has exceeded the physical ability to catch up to the power. And now we have the epitome of the opposite of that with somebody like Djokovic,
right,
who can hit as hard as he can, but can cover both corners equally well, and he's on balance every time he hits a ball. It's really disgusting.
Yeah, that was such a short-lived kind of. It was like everybody thought tennis was going to be ruined. It was going to be power tennis,
right.
And then it was like. Then the top 4 players are like defensive baseline players for the most part. I wouldn't say defensive, but able to play defense on the baseline.
Right. But now you see to some degree that is a feature of some women's tennis now, and some high-level women's tennis.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have the opposite with like Halep, Wozniacki, but you do have big bangers. Somebody like Serena is a mix of both.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Osaka and Kvitova are definitely bangers. They're not really trying to rally.
Right.
And it's funny, usually wouldn't you say that style of play typically doesn't lend itself to getting to number one, but you'll see a lot of players in the 5 to 20 range that play like that.
But on the women's side right now in particular, the physical ability of the women to hit big, both with equipment and their physical ability, can exceed their physical ability to cover the court. And that's not sexist. Don't get started with me. But the average height of the woman on tour, the average height of a man on tour, guess what? The court is the same distance, side to side, the same distance from the net to the baseline. Yeah. So you have someone who is smaller and not as fast or not as quick having to cover the same court.
Right.
So just by the nature of those facts, the power can get ahead of the women, like it started to on the men's back in the 90s. And I think certainly you take somebody like Wozniacki, she can cover the court side to side. So you have women that can do that, and then you have women like Halep also, and then you have the Kvitova that can punish the ball, and then now you have somebody like Sloane who can do both.
Right.
And I think eventually those players that can do both are going to rise on the women's side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are the players that have the most success. If you just have one way to play, I mean, even Sharapova, as good as she was never a consistent number one, but she really just had one way to play. And Kvitova, same thing.
What, pretty? Sorry.
Kvitova has one way to play, and if she's on, good luck against her, but if she's off, she's out in the first round.
Yeah. And, dude, I mean, in that final against Bencic, it did, for some reason, I think because with the men back in the 90s, it was really so heavy dictated with the serve, the additional height, the dramatically more strength in the shoulders. That's another I apologize for biology, but it just is. And so the serve just got so big and they couldn't catch up. But on the women's side, that's not the case. But the returns are what sort of make games not exciting sometimes. Yeah. It's like bam, bam, bam.
Well, and this week, last week I said every time I turned on TV it was Halep. This week, every time I turned on it was Bencic. It was like every match she played was a marathon, and every match she played was always on TV. I kind of got hooked from the first day because that was the match she saved 6 match points against Sabalenka. And I just kept watching, thinking, okay, there's no way she can win this. There's no way she can win this. She's down a game again. And then she just kept coming back.
Yeah.
And she did that. I didn't get to see as much of her later in the week, but I was reading, and it was the same kind of outcome every match. She was down.
Well, think about the men's tournament where team, then one seed loses in the first round. Yeah. Well, we've got Osaka losing her first match in Dubai. And, so her first round, the first round, was a bye.
Yeah, her first match as the number one player in the world.
So her first match in the second round was against Kiki Mladenovic, who would have guessed.
And she had like a 12-match losing streak last year at some point.
And she wins 3-3. And guess what? It didn't affect me at all in regards to this draw. It didn't bother me a bit. I mean, don't get me wrong.
You're not like, oh, the tournament's ruined now.
Don't get me wrong. I am a fan of Osaka, and I am a fan of players that can put balls away. That's enjoyable to watch, because nothing is less exciting to me than like a Wozniacki-Halep match.
Right.
20-ball
rallies and
40-ball rallies. So it's good to have other players to kind of have some contrast. But, yeah, so Mladenovic winning, beating Osaka, taking the 1 seed out of the tournament. I mean, I was like, oh, that's too bad because I'd like to see if she can build on that success that she's had, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it didn't affect me overall.
Well, it's like the old Tiger Woods era. If he missed the cut in a tournament, a lot of people aren't watching day 3 or day 4.
Right.
And we have that a little bit with the men's now. If Nadal loses in the French, that's going to lose a lot of interest. I don't think the women's has that. I mean, maybe Serena, that's going to lose a lot if she were to lose, but I don't think anybody else. You still know there's going to be a ton of players you're interested in seeing.
Yeah, and maybe the casual, maybe we're not putting ourselves in the casual fan's place, and fair enough, I can't. But from my perspective, a quote-unquote educated fan, it doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, Halep loses to Bencic. Big deal.
Right.
Kerber goes down. Pliskova goes down. Sabalenka goes down. I don't care. I mean, that's all still names. Oh wait. What about Svitolina? Oh, she's still in. And
then she lost to Bencic.
Right. And then Kvitova, Kvitova had a 3-setter against Shui. What's her name?
Yeah.
How do you say her name?
Hung Shui.
Sui Shea.
Sui Shui.
Shui. Say. Hey.
Hung Shui. I think that was the interior design method.
There we go. Feng Shui.
Yeah. That was the thing we've talked about that we hate too is when a big player goes out and then immediately the player that beats him goes out the next round. So that was what was cool about Bencic. She was beating somebody, and it's like, oh, well, she can't back it up the next round. I'm sure she's going to be exhausted. And it's like, oh, well, she won again. She won't do that again. And she just kept doing it. So it made you want to follow her in the draw, like just to see if she could keep beating people. So I thought that it's sort of like in the NCAA tournament when an lower seeded or lower ranked team beats somebody, it's like, well, they're going to come down to earth in the next match.
And by the way, don't let this undercut how much I do like the women's game more right now than the men's. But I demand equality.
In what way?
Well, Dubai, the prize money is 2.8 for the women. 1.9 for the men in the 500. I will not stand for it. This has got to stop.
Are they both
same week?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what, whatever. I'm just making the same dumb argument people make when they compare two tournaments that aren't even at the same place. I can get how people misunderstand when the tournament's at the same place, like Acapulco, coming up this week. Not to get ahead of ourselves. It's a men and women's event.
Yeah.
But when they're not even at the same venue, let it go. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's not. Never mind. Inequality. Come on. Let it go. So, so now that was a premier event. So that was a, good, solid, then we had a smaller in Hungary. You ever been to Budapest?
No, I have not.
Oh, why not? So we had a smaller tournament, a little 250 grand for the old prize money. And what do they call it? I really should learn these things. What is this? An international event. Aha!
Yeah, we read what those were last week.
Yeah, we did, but we forget.
It didn't clarify.
It's
really.
It's too much. It's too much. So we had some players here that still make this draw interesting. I think. I could be crazy. So the 2 seed Flipkins is out. So a lucky loser goes in, loses first round. So that was a non-event. Vondrousova makes it to the finals against Van Uytvanck.
I actually like the way she plays.
Me too. I just wish I paid attention. I could pronounce her name. But Petkovic was in that tournament. Lost her second round. But yeah, so just even a 250, which is like the lowest you can have, I think.
Yeah, that's not a challenger.
It's the lowest WTA event you can have. There's still some level of interest and some players that you're like, okay, cool.
Right.
I won't turn that.
Well, yeah, and by the time I got to the final, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't that interested, but like you said, there are names in the draw that I would have been interested in watching. It just didn't work out in this case.
Yeah, as you pop the TV on and you're looking, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can watch that match.
Right.
But
one, again, having that as not the only tournament to show is great. Because then when the other tournament's in a lull or there's just a match non-competitive, they at least have that to go to. That's what I like about it.
Right.
For TV, I think it's great to have many tournaments going on at once. I think for a system of ranking, it doesn't make sense. To have, I think it's like you said, the season should start with a couple 250s, then a couple 500s, then 1,000, then a week off, and then a slam.
Yeah.
And and that's your 8 weeks right there. And then you got 4 8-week seasons, and that's 32 weeks, and then we're off the rest of the year. Or maybe, that's when you do all your team nonsense and all that.
Your labor cups and all that garbage. So, in any event.
Literally.
So we had 3 men's events, 2 women's events, and the women's event by far was the best. The Dubai draw and the results and the matches, I think overall were the best.
For sure.
But I did, again, we've talked about how you hate having matches on at the same time, but for some reason, I liked it this time. I don't know.
Well, I think, like I said, I don't mind it for TV because then they can ping pong back to which one's better.
Right.
They don't always do that.
You just don't think it makes sense to have.
No.
Right, because there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, we got back to clay court, a hard court next week, and then clay court. And
well, here's the thing. We talked about. I don't know. It was last week or the week before. Talked about how golf has no discernible schedule either.
Right.
And matter of fact, they take half of their toys and go home. The American or North American, I don't know who, because Roy McIlroy's over here. He's not American.
Right.
So you have the European tour and you have the American tour or the North and whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
And it's all the same.
Right.
And then they just reconvene at certain tournaments. the Masters, whatever, the Grand Slams and all that.
I don't even know if their tournament, outside of the majors, I don't even know if their tournaments have like tiers. I think it's just all about
hold on,
how much money they can raise.
So that to me is the equivalent of what you're saying. You've got all these tournaments all over the world.
Right.
And you've got the top players spread all out. But it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. You're not playing head to head. Right. It's not like they're fighting each other at the tee box and whoever, wins gets to tee off first. I mean, it's just, you're playing the course and your scores, they're not head to head against anybody. I mean, you win the tournament, but it's how you do against each course. Right. Whereas tennis, you have to have the players there or it's a crap tournament. Right. Which we see a lot.
Well, yeah, it'd be sort of like at the end of golf if they didn't put the three people in the lead together in a group. Like, I feel like we have three winners at the end of every week, and it's like, well, we have three players that didn't ever play each other. So we really don't know who had the best week or who.
Well, I mean less than that. Yeah, that's a good point too. But I mean less than that. It's just having all these tournaments. Yeah, that's a good analogy. But golf just doesn't need that. I mean, we could play the entire tennis season in one building. Yeah, literally 52 weeks in one building. What does it matter? Right. We could have 3 courts. We could have one hard court, one grass court, and one red clay court, all in one building. And we play the entire hard court season on one court, and then we stop, and then we start over and play on the other 2 courts. So it doesn't matter. It's the players that have to be there. Right. So that's, I think, that, you know what? I'll say this. If the women's events didn't happen, maybe I would have been less excited about the two. Maybe the depth of the women and adding that to the overall, so there's 5 total tournaments, maybe that's what's got me in my head thinking that it was worth it. Because you take the women's tournament out, it does take a lot away from it.
Yeah. Well, how cool would it be? I actually think this would be kind of cool if they had a North American tennis circuit and a European tennis circuit and an Asian, Eastern tennis circuit, and you don't see anybody cross over except in either the Masters or the Slams. Because that's, like you said, is basically what golf does.
Yeah, but that goes exactly against what I just said.
No, and it would be
awful.
It would be weird. The only benefit.
I thought we had a disagreement for a minute. I thought you were going to sell it and really get behind it so I could argue.
Well, I think I would like it just because it would give us. Well, here's what would happen: you would get a total false insecurity on who's good,
or you would have a full sense of security on who in that group was at the top, right? And then you'd have the other zones.
Well, because our top 4 in North America could be, Isner. I can't think of anybody else. Yeah, Shapovalov, Raonic, and Tiafoe, and they only are playing each other for 4, 5, 6 weeks, so we don't really know how good they are. And then same thing, you've got.
That's the worst idea I've ever heard. But sell it because I want to make fun of you.
Well, yeah, and so you got those. The problem is I don't know how golf does their world ranking. Like I don't know how they.
It's weird.
Credit their points.
They don't have Yeah, I tried to talk to my golf coach about this, not my coach, the coach at my school. Yeah. And it's a really weird deal because, first of all, just like straight up rankings, like how you get into a tournament, it's not based on points, it's based on money.
Oh, really?
So the top 124 people on the money list get into the Grand Slam tournament. Okay. And then there's also, Tiger Woods, until he's 115, he will have an exemption to get into every tournament.
I knew for the Slams they have there's a lot of years.
I think it might be all the tournaments are
slams,
like that.
Yeah, I'm saying Slams, but you know what I mean.
Well, I think they're the same thing. The Big 4, the majors, probably the majors. So to me, again, it doesn't matter in terms of who's playing each other in golf. Yeah. You just want to see Tiger at Pebble Beach. You want to see Phil Mickelson at Pebble Beach. You want to see how they battle against the course. And for us, I don't care what court. Well, I mean, clay versus but again, we could run the entire clay season all at the French Open. Right. All of it. Yeah. You could run 19 different tournaments in a row all on clay. And then the same thing in the hard court. But you have to have the players together. So by separating them, you make American tennis really expose itself for what it is, crap.
Well, and I'm not advocating this system. I think it would make the only benefit to it would make the big tournaments even better But we have the opposite problem in tennis. The big tournaments are already great.
Right.
We need the lower tournaments to be better.
This would be worse.
Yeah, it would make the overall tennis landscape worse.
Well, what would make tennis better would be to do what we've talked about, where we have each season based on the surface.
Right.
And these are everybody's got to play these events.
Yeah, no offense to America. We grew up on hard court. No one should be allowed to play on hard court right now for the next 2 months.
Right.
Because it should all be clay, and that's it.
Right.
And if you can't win on clay, well, sorry, then you shouldn't have got into tennis where half the season's on clay.
Roger. Talking to you, Roger.
That's right. Yeah, and again, and we're talking about that. The guys can literally, somebody could be top 5 in the world and never play a clay court. And we saw that with Federer. He was number 1 without playing a clay court match. That should not be possible.
Right, ever.
It shouldn't, no matter what you're doing, you shouldn't be able to do that. So I think that's a problem when you've got somebody that can just stay. Like Isner will probably play 25 hard court tournaments this year. He'll probably play 3 on clay.
Right.
And so that's a flaw in the ranking system, is that he gets ranked as high as someone who's might play 50% on hard and 50% on clay.
Yeah. So the only benefit to these smaller tournaments that are all, spread out, I mean, they're basically running the golf system here because you don't have enough players to make a draw fantastic yet. The excitement of the next Gen only takes me so far because at some point they have to play the other gens,
right?
The big 4, the next gen, etc. And so hopefully that'll be coming up. So we've got a 500 in Acapulco for the men
with Nadal's return.
Nadal's the 1. And Zverev, I guess, is trying to mirror Nadal's season. He wants a piece of him because he's the 2.
He won't make it to the final.
The 3, this is not good. The 3's Isner.
Wow, so he is going to play clay.
Yeah.
Just contradicted me.
Good for him. Tiafoe's in there. He's the 6. Schwartzman's the 4. Alex de Minaur, next gen, is the 5.
We forgot about him.
Tennis Sandgren playing wild card. I don't know how this is possible, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, David Ferrer is still not retired.
Ferrer will win that match.
Oh, man, I hope so. So Nick Kyrgios is he'll play Nadal second round if he gets past Seppi, which I'm dubious of that.
I was going to say he could lose that.
Now Stan, unseeded, plays a qualifier in his first round, and he'll play Stevie Johnson if he makes it out of his
How
first round.
How is he still unseeded?
Who, Wawrinka?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because he's been out for so long.
Yeah. But you never got to the initial question that started that whole topic was how does the women's tour get all these people to play and the men's tour can't?
I don't know. So I guess that's the strength of the women. But
you can't say fatigue because they're all playing 2 out of 3.
Yeah, raising money and promoting is not their strength.
Right.
So the men are taking a load of crap and shining it up and making it look great, even though they got nothing. And the women have everything and can't make it look like anything.
Well, I was going to say, is it because the women need them? Is the bulk of the women's money come from prize money, whereas the men get money from endorsements?
Of course, sexism and.
But I mean, who do you think makes? I'll ask that. Who do you think makes more endorsements, Del Potro or Halep?
Oh, sure, Delpo.
You think?
Yeah, and who packs the court more? Delpo.
Yeah, but I mean that's a disparity when he's 7 in the world and she's consistently 1-2 in the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be why they're playing the tournaments. The men may think, top men may already be getting their money elsewhere. Maybe. They don't need to be out there.
Or there is no clear number 1 and everybody's always, maybe it matters more.
Yeah.
Federer and them guys, they don't seem to care about the rankings. They just can't not be top 3 for some. They try as they might. They can't not be the top, whatever. But maybe it's because the women are all battling. Nobody can take a week off because if they do, boom.
That would be something interesting if the tours came up with some, bonus for being number 1. If it was $100,000 a week, every week you're number 1, or $50,000, that would be interesting. I mean, now Federer and them don't need that, but 10 years ago that would have been a motivator.
Yeah, that's the problem with anything revolving around money is it just doesn't matter.
Right. Federer is not playing anything for the money ever again.
Right.
And that's why he was able to skip the French.
That is, I will say, one thing that is cool about golf, that the money list, now typically the money list is also your point list.
Right.
It parallels, I'm sure, but still just kind of a cool twist that the money you've earned on playing in the tour, PGA Tour, whatever it's called, dictates the ranking basically.
Well, what's interesting about that is, well, I guess it's still the same as tennis. You win the Australian and don't play for 6 more weeks, you're still going to have more money and more points than anybody else.
All the 250s in between, yeah.
So I guess that's similar.
Well, what have we done? Have we done enough on men's yet?
Never.
Well, again, I think now I'm put to the test. So the NextNext Gen is now coming into a group of tournaments, or at least one, Acapulco, where Nadal is going to be in it, and that means a lot theoretically. Theoretically, so now you've got Dubai, which for the men another 500. Nishikori's the 1 seed, and Federer is the 2.
Oh, so Federer's back this week too.
Yeah, and now you've got Khachanov. You got Chorich. Tsitsipas is in that draw.
Is that Clay?
No.
Yeah, because he's not coming to Clay till Madrid, I think.
Right. So now you've got potentially some of the next gen running into the next gen. It'll be very interesting to see, for instance, if Key makes it past the mighty frosted tips of Benoit Paire.
You're the only person that cares about him.
I don't.
Yeah.
At all.
But that's going to be 2 big tournaments on TV.
I hope so, yeah. And it's got exactly what we want. It's got Big 4.
Right.
And next gen. And the poor next gen is just going to get beaten and battered in between the two, I think.
So Novak's not playing either.
Haven't seen him.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him. Why would he? But no, we got talking about men's again. But to me, the reason we're talking about the women's tour, we think is fine. Every tournament's dramatic. It's exciting. Top players. We know every week there's going to be top players playing. I mean, Kvitova might be playing again this week. Well, the women's draw. So the women's draw for the Acapulco, which is the same time as the men. Men's is a 500. And oh lordy, it's a 250 on the women's. But you got Sloane at 1. And DC, baby, Danielle Collins at 2, the 2 seed. And so hopefully they can do some damage. I think Sloane, yes, she won a Grand Slam, but still, it seems to me untapped potential is what I say, because she has everything.
Right.
She's got everything.
Offense, defense.
Special teams. Kicking game is on point.
So that's the biggest women's event this week?
So we got that's Acapulco 250, and yes.
So that'll be an off week for a lot of those players. Finally,
right? But it's still a good one because again, they sort of flip flop. Like Danielle Collins and Sloane took some time off.
Yeah, and we get to see some of our American players.
Get our fix of some good players though, and travel wise is not too bad for the Americans.
Right. Well, and I think they probably both flamed out early, and we didn't hear their names in the last tournament or two, and that's why they're available for this. Or maybe they planned it that way. Who knows? Yeah.
But another American in is Sophia Kenin.
Yeah.
So she's the 5. So I don't think she's going to have the staying power just because of her size.
Yeah, and somebody said I was really down on Keys on one of these episodes, and my problem with Madison Keys is that I have yet to see her beat a really consistent baseline player, and you're not going to win a slam without beating somebody like that. Without beating a Wozniacki or a Halep or somebody that's just going to grind it out. Because that's just what you've got to do. You can't overpower somebody like that. Or she hasn't been able to so far.
Well, you can. You just have to be a little more patient to do it.
Right.
And that's something she certainly seems to not be.
And you have to be super on 7 matches in a row.
Well, see, that's why Sloane, I think, has unlimited potential, is because she does have both. She's got the potential, but she can finish.
Yeah, and she can just, if she decides she wants to just rally and grind it out, she can.
Yeah,
I've not seen Keys being able to do that.
Keys can, obviously. I mean, she's a professional tennis player.
She had to have done that at some point.
But she just doesn't.
Right. In juniors, there's no way she wasn't able to grind out matches because that's all there are in juniors is grinders.
So, yeah. But anyway, so it's a shorter, lesser, whatever week for the women, not because of, inequality, the pay gap, but just because that's what the WTA decided to do on their own accord.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll still have some women's to talk about.
Well, and we're not too far away from probably the second favorite American tournament besides U.S. Open, which is Indian Wells. That is always a really big thing. I never seem to get that into it. It always seems to starts like unexpectedly.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
It starts and then it starts like on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's kind of weird.
I got somebody else emailed me about why do all the big players play doubles in that, and I still don't know. We got to get Isner in here.
We looked up something. I think it's just become a tradition at this point. I do think the prize money is higher for doubles there, but we've already established they don't care about that.
Yeah.
Like Federer's not playing for the prize money at all. So I think it's just the fact that maybe that's because it's like a 12-day tournament. They don't feel like they're stretched too thin by having to play twice in one day or whatever.
Could be, which we could do with all the tournaments,
right?
If we set up our schedule the way we want to.
Exactly.
Australian Open starts at the beginning of December, or the series. I mean, so.
Right.
All right. You got any corner? Is there a corner somewhere in the corner of your mind?
The corner has been dissolved for now.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll stop asking about the corner.
Then I'll bring one next week.
And we'll skip it.
That's right.
All right. Well, I think today was a good pod.
Thank you.
Good pod. Not you. I did fine. You were okay.
I try.
You broadcast today better than you played.
I was going to say, am I better on court or in the studio?
Studio.
It's a tough choice.
Studio. Leave your racket outside.
That's the only way I get you to give me a compliment in the studio is when I juxtapose it with my game.
It was a sight to behold today, I must say. We had team practice today, and so we finished before you finished.
So you went from watching active college players to an inactive former college player.
Nah, I couldn't tell the difference. I didn't know where my team began, and
that's right.
You ended.
I'm sure there was a lot of one-handed slice backhands in that team practice.
Oh yeah. I will say the best part of your game, old man jokes.
Did I give like the standard? Oh yeah, that nobody like gives you any.
Oh yeah, had no chance to get that one.
To.
Or I can't think of it. You use about 12 of them.
No, you're totally. I've got so many of those from teaching, and it's just like they just come out.
Yeah, it's pitiful.
We used to have this guy that I played with, and there was always we played next to this tree. This is a terrible corner. Don't even call this a corner, but we call them horse apples in Texas. I'm sure they're called something else. But there was a tree, and every time we played, he would say, "There's a third ball," and he'd point at one of those horse apples, and I would like give a chuckle every time, and I'm like, "Why am I laughing at that?" It's the same, and now I'm that guy that's just like, yeah, it's like you said.
Oh man!
And they don't. It just glosses over. They don't even acknowledge it.
They don't. I did though. I thought I caught onto it immediately and said, "Wow, how did within a span of 1 week did you become older than me?"
Yeah, as long as my wife is on the sidelines laughing, and for the most part she still is, either laughing or shaking her head, one of the two.
Hey, you're still married.
I still get a reaction one way or the other. That's what I go for.
That's it. All right, well, enough about us. Nobody cares about us.
That's right. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares.
Rod Woodson.
We got to get that clip for next week. So now, as you know, maybe, but I'll tell everybody again, we're on YouTube. I don't know what that means. Just go find it. I have no idea. Not video. Not video. We're not that sophisticated, but we're on YouTube. We're on every podcast app you can believe, but just Google us, download. And the number one thing, subscribe. For the love of Pete, subscribe. Just hit the button. You never have to worry about it again. As a matter of fact, you never have to listen again. You can set it to automatically download, right, and then automatically delete. Done. Problem solved. We get the benefit of you being a subscriber, and you get the benefit of not having to listen. Right. I think it's a win-win. I like it.
Do that. Now, Instagram. Check us out on Insta for no reason. No reason whatsoever. I do not send pictures.
Yeah, want to see pictures of me playing? Don't go there. Not going to happen.
Believe me. That will not be the first. If I ever break the code here, that will not be the first picture.
Black and white photos.
So Tennis Revolution Pod at Instagram. We're dropping. People are leaving. I'm like, what did you expect?
They're disappointed that they're not getting anything.
I guess. So
they got exactly what we promised them.
Exactly. No more, no less. Exactly what we promised. So I don't understand why people bail. All right, so that's Instagram, which I'm surprised I was even able to get that set up. So then we have, of course, on Twitter, which is the main source, Tennis Rev Pod. Tennis Rev Pod on Twitter. And that is somewhat active. I'm not cool. I'm definitely not like these youngsters today, just tweeting out nonstop cool stuff. But at least I tweet out up the current episode. You can go link to that, download it, whatever. But make sure you also subscribe.
Feel free to engage in a conflict with us on there about something you didn't agree with in the show.
Yeah, call me a moron. I enjoy that.
Yes, I enjoy it too. So
yes, even though you do not have Twitter. Matter of fact, you know what? Don't engage in anything until we force this dum-dum to get Twitter. That's my next campaign. You're getting Twitter.
Once we get to 100,000 downloads a week, I'll get one. So we're just a couple more away.
All right. Maybe I got it. Maybe as soon as our Twitter follower thing hits 300.
All right. What's it at now? 299?
We're at 203. We're at 203. But we've been steady.
Right.
We've been steady. These lazy listeners don't do nothing. So we're at 203. So 97 more followers. And I think I can think of 97 different names to sign up. So
we got to get in more feuds with like BG and Patrick McEnroe and these people.
Maybe. Red card.
Yeah.
So if we get to 300, will you commit to getting a Twitter and following Tennis Revolution Tennis Rev Pod?
Yes. Because I'll do your method, which is just download it, sign up, follow, and then delete. No, I will.
Fair enough. Whatever.
I can do it.
You're going to get hooked.
That's right.
You're going to hook. You're going to lose your job. You're going to stop showing up to the studio. Why do you think I'm doing this?
That's right.
I got to get you out of here somehow.
Yeah, I'm going to be like all the athletes and get fired for posting something I don't remember.
Inappropriate. So anyway, all right. So you heard it, folks. Follow us on Twitter for the love of all things holy. Get this moron on Twitter.
This will prove how bad people want me on Twitter.
So you can call him a moron also,
That's
not
right.
just me. I'm tired of taking it myself.
Our followers are going to start going down because nobody wants me on there.
We do get a fair amount of emails too, oddly enough.
Huh.
I mean, it's 2019. Who emails?
I still do my stuff via email, and every once in a while somebody say, why don't you just text, or why don't you just post it online? I'm like, whatever.
Why don't you stop riding a dinosaur to work? All right, well, that's it. We're rambling enough. So check us out on all those things. Let's get Corey a Twitter. That's it. That's your corner. I'm going to put you in a corner with Twitter.
Yes.
All right. Well, I thought we nailed it today. Crushed it.
Always.
So, it's getting warmer.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm getting fired up about tennis. So everybody out there, you're playing, tell all the people you're playing to follow this podcast. For the love of all things, we need it. And until next time, thanks for joining the revolution.
Bye, guys.